There we go. All right, so that means that tone is a feeling. Like you have an attitude towards something. It's like you have a feeling towards something. So I don't know why, but it always helps me to think of something like more abstract than the thing that I'm actually studying. So I like to think of a hamburger, and I will just look at this hamburger and I will say, can I have this particular attitude towards a hamburger? Can I feel this certain way? So can I feel blunt about a hamburger?
No, that's impossible.
No, you can't feel like
Hamburgers are always good.
no, you can't feel blunt about anything. You can speak bluntly about it. So I could
I
say
think you can feel blunt.
this hamburger is a hunk of dead meat, but blunt is not a feeling, it's a style word. So your example for this one is Emerson's Self-Reliance, the essay. So you're writing that down under example. Emerson's Self-Reliance, and I'm going to have you think about 3 subjects that he has, and you're going to try and name his tone. So let's do society, the self, and charity. Okay, so those are 3 subjects that he talks about in that essay. You're going to think of at least 2 tone words per subject. Now remember, tone words are feeling words. So if you can't feel a certain way, then it's not a tone word.
Is happy a tone word?
Yeah, happy is a tone word. I can feel happy about a hamburger. Super happy about
That
a
doesn't
hamburger.
make sense.
Really? You've never felt happy about a hamburger?
Well, I feel happy when I have a hamburger,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
but not happy about a hamburger.
Yeah, I can feel mad about a hamburger. for sure.
Oh, I felt mad about hamburgers so often.
So talk with the person next to you, try and figure out tone words for each of those subjects. 2 tone words per subject. And write it down on under effects.
About what subjects?
What? No, so you've read the Emerson essay already, right? Let me clarify. You've read the Emerson essay. You're trying to judge what is Emerson's attitude towards society, 2 tone words. What is Emerson's attitude towards the self, 2 tone words. Okay.
2 tone words for each one.
2 tone words for each one. See if you can do it. They'll probably be synonyms for each other. That's okay.
My attitude towards society.
Well, you've read,
Yeah,
he does not just say his attitude towards it. Yeah, he just, through the things that he says about society, he is conveying a certain emotion that he has towards society. Yeah. Okay.
You
Yeah,
can trust a hamburger that it's not poisoned.
yeah, you can trust him.
What?
until you are.
Then like don't worry about it. It's like
His attitude would be trusting.
Do you think that a coin lands on one side more than
So
another?
what? Blunt would be more a style. I mean,
Well, one side's got
it's the style that's. Yeah.
Unless one of these has like both sides are exactly the same.
I don't know.
But what if like the airflow around it causes very small difference in how it flips?
Well, but even then, okay, how do I get my, so I want to make my last name.
No. We got two tone words. Right down under here, sorry.
oh, my
Sorry, I
God.
didn't mean to be rude. I was looking at the wrong side.
Wait, what?
0.1% more often.
Yeah, write it down under effects.
Oh, that's supposed to be effects? Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I thought it was supposed to be an example.
I don't care whether I know if it does, I just want to know if it can. If that's possible. If it does.
Ooh, idolize is a good word.
I don't like that one. Can we choose like?
I think you're
You should
prohibited
choose
from
happy.
having an opinion for the
You
rest
should
of the
choose
class.
happy
Towards which one?
for one of the days.
Oh,
So far,
the word should be happy.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be tough.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Defining happy?
Dopamine in the brain.
Oh, very scientific. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that we should, just to see who thinks how.
It'd be interesting.
Have a discussion on like.
What is
What is
happiness?
happiness?
Yeah. Kind of like what is love though too. That one
Oh,
also.
that one's too hard. I just want to see if people think scientific or existential.
What is love? I don't want to say that.
Is that the right word for that?
Just right, maybe.
Existential.
Existential or scientific?
Existential is like,
I don't think I have that right.
no, it's a really specific philosophy. Yes. Somebody gives to charity a lot.
I think I wrote more about Pop-Tarts than the actual starter.
As long as you're writing.
I wrote about how I have a Pop-Tart in my pocket, but I don't know if I should eat it because it would be crumbly.
And that was your big decision that you were trying to make.
Yeah. I still don't know if I should eat it.
Okay, how many of you guys are done? You've got 6 tone words written down, 2 for each subject. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute and then I'll show you.
It's
Okay.
crumbly, and it sounds crumbly.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a mess.
I really want to eat a Pop-Tart though.
You eat it over the trash can, maybe it would work.
That's too much. I'll just have it with me.
All right, let's read together. So society, what were the tone words that you were saying that Emerson feels about society? Yeah, Isabel. Disappointed is a good one. That's a good emotion word.
Anger.
Anger, yeah. What else? Alex? Definitely, and he personally feels that power. I think that definitely counts as a tone word. Shh, I can't keep up this volume for this one. Yes, so you like exhausted? That's a good one. Yes. Okay. Oh, great tone words, Lucy. Loathsome. What a good one. Oh, I don't know if that has an E though. I got it. Okay.
Unhappy.
Unhappy. Perfect.
I don't think most of society.
So good,
Depressed.
Depressed. All right, cool. How does he
Isn't that
feel
just another fancy word
about
for
charity?
feeling bummed out?
Yeah,
Yes.
Zoe.
Obligated.
Yeah, so he feels obligated. Okay, yeah.
Annoyed.
Annoyed.
What?
Confused.
What is charity?
What is? Yeah, perfect. Reluctant. That's a good one. Okay, you guys are doing
Happy.
awesome.
Happy.
How about
Happy.
this? He doesn't feel happy about charity though. How
Oh, I
about the
thought we were
self?
asking how we felt. Oh,
Yeah,
He's very happy.
happy with the self. Okay. Yeah, Isabella? Accepting of the self. I like that. Lucy?
I was.
Idolize. Okay, how would we put that as a emotion? I think just idolizing.
Yeah.
I think that works. Sadie?
Trust me.
Trusting. Okay, cool. You guys are awesome at this, much better than the other class. So we can move on. Don't tell them I said that.
I'm definitely gonna tell them that. we said
All
that.
of these words are great. They're all, here's what makes them great. They're all specific. Nobody said dark for an emotion, which is not really an emotion. You guys were being
Light.
very specific with all of these.
Obscure would be.
Nobody tried to use style words here, like blunt or smart or even like complex, which is like kind of a vague one. So these are great. So you can put those away now.
Complicated.
Yeah. You feel dark inside?
The effect was.
Yeah, you do seem like a goth girl to me. Okay, and then pull out your Emerson essay.
Can I just get a copy of that for this class?
Yeah, it's just on the back table.
I did it. I just forgot to bring it.
You got 5 seconds to pull out that Emerson essay. You guys gotta stay with me today.
Sorry. I'm distracted slightly by
Okay, if you flip to the end of that, you've got some white space just at the bottom or on the other side. I want you to take some notes about who Emerson was. So we learned a lot about him last time. So when you're taking notes like this, you're just sort of listening to what I say. You're trying to figure out what the important points are and just taking a couple little bullet point notes. So he was a major writer in the 1800s. In the mid 1800s, he was very famous, very popular. He made his money off of writing and giving lectures. So he would go across the United States and he'd give lectures at universities or in churches or in like town halls and people were very inspired by this idea of transcendentalism. So he was really successful doing that. Kind of pretty well off. He usually wrote his stuff after he gave the lecture. So he'd come, he'd have lecture notes, he'd kind of like go off the cuff. Doesn't he seem like kind of an off the cuff kind of guy? Like he would follow his whims as he's giving his lectures. And then based on how those went, he would write the essays afterwards and then publish them. So this essay was published in 1841. It was in like a first essay collection, but he had been delivering this speech for a few years ahead of time. And like I said before, like I think I said this before, transcendentalism was super popular right from the start. So as soon as those ideas got out, people really liked those ideas. And we're going to kind of look at why they really kind of like jive with what it means to be an American, I think, for a lot of people. And so they latched on to those and he was very popular. In 1842, he decided to start a little utopia. Did I tell you about Hawthorne's farm, Brooks Farm?
Yes.
So Emerson had one of those too. He called it Fruitlands. It was a bunch of like philosophers that all got together, but Emerson's was even a little bit more extreme because he didn't want to use any animal labor, no animal exploitation on his farm. But this is like before machines too, right? So no horse to pull the plow, no cows to give milk, like no animal labor at all. So it really didn't go well. Hawthorne's farm lasted a couple years. Emerson's farm lasted a couple months, and then they were out. But it's kind of like shows that he sort of put his money where his mouth is. Like he actually did try to live these ideas that he's talking about. One thing that happened that was really important to his life was his 5-year-old son. Right after he published this essay, so about a year afterward, his 5-year-old son got scarlet fever and passed away really quickly. So scarlet fever, when you got that in the 1800s, you didn't have that long of an illness. Like it was a quick turnaround. So the kid was sick. 5 days later, he was dead. And this is a 5-year-old son, and Emerson just thought like the world of this kid. Like he was very close to this son. And after that, he really changed. His writing changed a lot. It got a lot more spiritual. That's when he started thinking about more Indian philosophy, and that's where he came up with that idea of the oversoul. And he was trying to really get through his grief. So before his son died, he wrote a lot of essays like this one that we read. After his son died, he was primarily a poet. So it was almost like all poetry as he was trying to like kind of work through his grief. It was a really important event in his life. Like it's basically all he talked about for years and years and years. He's writing like during a really important time in American history with slavery. The 1860 is when the country goes into civil war, right? So he's writing right around that time. So every prominent person had to take a stance on slavery. He was kind of late to the party. He wasn't like outspoken either way in the beginning, pro or anti. But as he kind of like was thinking about transcendental ideas, he became a really staunch, like really outspoken, opinionated anti-slavery guy. He was an abolitionist. And that became part of his speeches. All right, and then he didn't die until 1882 of pneumonia, so he lived a long life for back then. He did have more than one kid. I can't remember how many he had. Let me look it up. How many children did Emerson have? 4. But this was his oldest. This was Waldo, his oldest
Where's
son.
Waldo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's
His
Waldo?
namesake. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I like the social media stuff. I don't know, it's gimmicky, but it's fun to me. So he is like the most quotable guy. You kind of notice that when you're reading it, like he has these really long poetic sentences, and then suddenly it'll just be like, trust thyself, and like really clear and straightforward. Imitation is suicide, right? Like he just like kind of has these great punchy lines. So we're gonna pretend Emerson's on Twitter.
I thought that was speaking.
These blue pages all around the classroom, there's 12 of them, are all tweets from Ralph Waldo Emerson. They're real things that he said. And you're gonna go around interacting with them. So here's how you're gonna interact.
Is that what
Okay, I need you to comment on 3 of them.
Okay.
So think of your Twitter handle. You can give me
Twitter.
Twitter handle is like your name that you use on Twitter.
have
Well, you can make one up or you can use your real name, however you want to.
Handles kind of not,
And make one up. What?
my Twitter handle is not.
Then don't use it.
Okay.
Thanks, good clarification.
Make one up.
All right, so you're gonna comment on these around the classroom. You need to find 3 of them that you want to comment on. I want you to retweet 2 of them. So you do it like,
I don't know how Twitter works.
So you can call them on 3 and
that's the retweet symbol, something like that. You can retweet it. You can like, which is a little heart. Let's say like 2 of them. And then you can at someone. And that's when you're saying, hey, I think this person really needs to see that. And it can be fictional. You can be like, this is what Chillingworth needs to see. It can be someone in the class, like, I think Bella really needs to see this one today. It can be someone in real life. I think I've got a few Donald Trumps up here. I think Donald Trump needs to see this one, whatever. You can do whoever you want, but you're kind of adding someone. Let's do 2 of those. 2, 4. No, let's just do 1. Okay, so you retweet if you think like, this is so important that I want this on my feed too. I really agree with this. You comment, and if you can comment that you agree about some aspect of it, but you could also say like, I think this is so dumb and I don't agree with this at all. Like you could get into a Twitter fight with Emerson if you want to. Like a couple that you're like, these are good. I wouldn't retweet them, but they're pretty good. And then at someone that needs to hear one of them. Does that make sense?
Oh, we're doing it with these quotes.
No, you're doing it with these blue pieces of paper that are taped up everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, Alex? They can be on the same one. Yeah. All right. People have been writing on these already. You'll see, like, if you write small, we shouldn't have any problems with space, but you can kind of see what the other class had to say too. Okay, go ahead, move around.
I'm gonna be smarter.
Okay, Justin, for
It's
you.
time to loudly express my opinions again.
Yeah, great.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Okay, so for you, I'm gonna give you a couple. You need to do all those. So you don't have to look at every single quote, but yeah. Sorry, Justin, I'm gonna give you a couple of these and then I'm gonna have you just comment on your thoughts about a couple of these. And that's for anyone working from home too. So let's do this one. Okay, Emerson said this line.
Oh my gosh, hey,
Justin.
Justin.
Okay, Emerson said that all men have learned one use of their feet to go, but another use to stand, few have learned. And then let's do this one. The world can never be learned by learning all its details. And then let's do this one. The world is new, untried. Do not believe the past. All right, so for each of those quotes, you're just gonna say, yeah, what you think about those quotes. Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that would be an important thing to like apply to your own life, or do you think you'd rather ignore that one?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
You like my
What does that say?
To add something, to comment, agree, retweet, to like, to
Yeah, totally.
The next one.
For everything else. Just for life, yeah. So I put hashtag relatable. I'm gonna put hashtag I agree. Hashtag we agree.
Yeah, I heard a smack, I swear. Oh! That was a great one. It was so fun, I'm so high. I like to just read all these.
wait,
Just read. What we praise for ourselves for is always granted.
I want to read this.
yeah, that was.
I literally wrote. Go off. I wrote go off.
I don't like.
So far, all my answers.
I'm not gonna die just.
I went over there.
I don't die.
No, 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 no.
That doesn't happen.
I know he's nice.
That's too long.
You know, like.
No, it's just.
I mean, everyone.
How does that make sense? Like, you're like, he's a little bit, he's a little bit of an elevator. You don't get so much hate with that. It's like, wow. You can like answer that. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
By the way, my username is not Boss Game, it's Boss Guy.
Boss guy, oh, it's- Yeah. I don't have a nice.
Just do this. So I just have to comment twice.
At my.
Critical comments. I'm gonna pretend that I like that one. Because I did. I just forgot to put a heart.
I did. The mysteries fiction.
That's so fast. Good one. I feel like I'm slowly choking. I'm like a little heavy in the chest, but like, I mean, yesterday it felt like there was a straight up rock.
Megan, go look at your post. Go look at your post.
Stupid.
I think it's that blue one.
That one.
Yeah.
I
Is
should
that
say they're all
doubling
green.
now?
I should say they're all green.
They're all green.
Well, all of yesterday, yeah, I was like, it felt like I
What's
ran
all
a
green?
marathon
The
just
papers.
doing a bunch of- They're all green.
No, the ones on the wall.
Those are blue.
Green.
Those are blue.
Those are
My
green.
mom took it.
Megan, you agree with me? Those
My
are
nose
green.
was
When you're
like
done, go take a seat.
exploding.
They're definitely blue.
They're green.
Hey, those papers on the wall are blue, right?
No, they're green.
Oh my gosh, he said I don't know.
This is your mom's
Yeah,
book on the one right? These papers? Yeah, right? The papers are green, right? Excuse me. They're obviously green.
I found that your mom
It just occurred to you. that these
Oh,
papers
this
are green.
It's a scandalous.
I just happened to found it. I saw mom when I was there. And somebody told me there was a your mom joke on it. How many coins can you flip at one time?
Alright, awesome, good job, Justin.
Oh, that's hard. I think you can flip 3 coins at one time.
Alright, go ahead and take a seat wherever you are, it's okay.
Nope. You're cool. I can flip 3 coins at a time.
Okay, and then open your packets to, I think it's right before Emerson. I've copied the Declaration of Independence for you.
He's so feminine.
No!
I know.
I just like flipping all 3 of them at once.
It's like a rainbow.
Okay, it's page. Oh, 17 for you guys. 15, 17. I guess we all have different ones. That's fine.
It's also 17.
What?
17.
Whenever somebody.
All right, is everyone there?
This is like,
It's really annoying.
what this document is Thomas Jefferson rewording people's philosophies and then just roasting the key.
Yes.
You suck, King.
Okay, so after Emerson had been super, super important, around the 1930s, we had this justice named, Wendell Holmes, Oliver Wendell Holmes. And he was kind of obsessed with Emerson. He just thought Emerson was the greatest American thinker. And he was talking about Emerson's first essay, which we're actually going to read for next time, which is called Nature. But he is referring to, he's referring to ideas that self-reliance grew out of nature. So he says that this is America's intellectual Declaration of Independence. Intellectual Declaration of Independence. So in order to figure out what he means by that, we need to look at the actual Declaration of Independence and see what it might have in common with transcendentalism. So you are just going to read the first 2 paragraphs of the Declaration. They're probably pretty familiar to you. And as you read, so just read quietly to yourself, you're going to make a couple notes to the side about how it relates to transcendentalism. So anything you find that seems to be related to transcendentalism. I think it's right after that. Oh, no, I lied before.
Yeah, it's before. I can't believe you lied to me.
Okay, does everyone know what they're doing? They're reading the first 2 paragraphs and making comments to the side about how it relates to transcendentalism.
Hamilton?
Yes, yes, yes. The Declaration of Independence quotes Hamilton.
No, they quote the Declaration of Independence, but I just immediately like start singing it. I'm like, yeah.
Okay, it's got to be silent in here while you do this. You can't read
Why?
and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I can. What if if I'm reading out loud?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we hold these truths.
That all men are created equal.
Because when he says man, he doesn't. Oh, okay, we have to talk about it.
I can't. It's super hard.
Major decision for you people. Demanding me. Okay, remember little notes to the side.
First two paragraphs, right? Yeah, just first two paragraphs.
Offenses.
Really?
Offenses design.
I'm trying to remember. I think it's like come up with. Reveal the presence of, indicate. All right, let's talk about it. So what are you seeing in these first, so Oliver Wendell Holmes called it the intellectual Declaration of Independence. So what are you seeing in these first two paragraphs that seem similar to the values of transcendentalism?
Not very intellectual, I guess.
It's to assume the powers of the earth and separate manifestation, cause of nature and creatures of God entitled them.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of like stuck out because Emerson, like reading that thing, like he kind of like talked a couple times about God, but like again, like they very much feel like they would go out and just do whatever feels right.
Mhm.
And it feels almost as if they're saying like earth controls what you feel.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like that it
Like control, it like
controls
gives
you.
you the urges to do whatever.
Yeah, and you're a part of Earth
Yeah.
too, right? So it's like you assume among the powers of Earth the separate and equal station to which laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. So nature's God means that God created nature, God created you, so you are entitled to make your own decisions. Yeah, Lucy.
It brings up the all men are created equal.
Yes.
Something that they I can't say.
Transcendentalism. Yes, absolutely. That if God created all man, then all men are equal. All men are equally divine. Yeah, Carter.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Mhm. Yes, and the self-evident part is like no one needs to debate this thing. It doesn't matter if someone agrees that we should trust your whims or if somebody disagrees with it. Either way, you are entitled to this right. And it is because you are divine, like you are such a amazing sort of godlike thing as a human being that it doesn't really matter if somebody else decides to grant you that right. You just have that right. It's, here's the word I can't say, inalienable.
Inalienable.
It's inalienable. I can't say it. Those things are yours, right? It doesn't matter if someone gives them to you or not.
Anemone.
Okay, any other similarities you're seeing with transcendentalism? How about this idea, dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another? What does Emerson think about the community and society?
It's useless.
What was that, James? Alex? Yeah, that it has a ton of influence over you. So yes, this is a political document. It is talking about how England has too much influence over America. But imagine America is just one person right now. You would say they are being influenced too much by outside forces rather than the individual. So really, the Declaration of Independence really does describe what transcendentalism is going to become, but just for the individual instead of for the state, for the society. Yeah. Usurpations is when you usurp something, you forcibly take it over. You forcibly put it out of power.
Okay.
Yeah. Usurpations,
That's a fun one.
takeovers, hostile takeovers. Okay, so going with that, let's pick apart what Emerson is doing, because you guys for next time are going to write a little one-page write-up of a different Emerson essay. And in order to really understand how to do that, I want to show you how we can kind of like pick apart an argument so that we can fully understand it. So open to Emerson now. Yeah, the one you annotated, sorry, self-reliance. And you're gonna find all of these quotes that I've written on the board. So, imitation is suicide. It is in the second line.
Imitation is
Highlight
suicide.
it or circle it really big so you can find it again, or really dark.
Where? Oh, I found it.
Imitation is suicide. Second line, circle it or highlight it. All right, the next one, trust thyself. It's the first line of the second paragraph.
Oh.
So circle that. All right, third one, the virtue in most request is conformity. This is in the third paragraph, and it's kind of at the end of the third paragraph. It's the third sentence from the end. One line up from the end. The virtue in most request is conformity. Okay, no law can be sacred to me, but that of my nature. I need my copy. This is in the middle of that really big fourth paragraph. It's about 8 lines down. Exactly 8 lines down. No law can be sacred to me, but that of my nature. It's right after he says, if I'm of the devil, then I'm going to be of the devil. It's such a metal line. I love it.
Thou foolish philanthropist. I'm
No
I'm
law can
underlining
be
that
sacred,
one.
yeah. Okay, about 4 lines from the bottom, it says, are they my poor? I'm gonna circle that one.
Thou foolish philanthropist.
I think it's like 4 lines from the bottom. Yeah, 5 lines from the bottom. Are they my poor? Okay, and then you're finding this one. The great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. So do you see how there's a page break on the next page when you flip it and there's a ... It's right above that. So it's the last line before the page break. The great man is he who in the midst of the crowd. Yeah, you're or highlighting them or something so you can find them again easily. Yeah. The first ... So there's 3 on that page. It's here. I'll hold it up. It's right here.
Solitude.
Yeah, the last word of it is solitude. Okay. All right, second to last paragraph on that page. The paragraph starts, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds." Such a good quote too. But we're gonna look at the last one there that says, "To be great is to be misunderstood."
Wait, where?
So the paragraph starts, "A foolish consistency," and it's the last line of that paragraph.
These are kind of sad.
No, they're happy.
No, they're not. How
No.
are these happy?
Okay, now flip the page.
That's not happy. Calling philanthropists.
First
foolish.
paragraph on that page, 3 lines down, it says, "We must go alone." And circle that. Okay. I think that those lines kind of detail the main points of his argument. But in order to understand the argument, you really have to figure out what those lines actually mean. So we're gonna be in like groups of 4 or so. So let's do 4 and 4 and 4. Kind of our usual groups. And we'll do 3 here, 4 there, 3 in the back. And then we'll do 4 right here, and I'll have Kennedy move over and be 4 with you guys, and Ivory, you're gonna do 5 with these guys. Okay, so in groups, you found all these quotes, you're gonna talk about each quote, and you're gonna say what it means. But you could just say imitation is suicide. Oh, when you imitate people, you're basically killing off yourself. That's like kind of it, right? But you're just putting it in your own words. I want you to actually have a full discussion about the implications of that. So like, if you were to actually practice each of these lines, what would that actually look like? What does that actually mean? Does that make sense?
Oh,
So I'm gonna give you like 15 minutes to talk through these with your groups, and that's the kind of depth I want you to go into with each. Once you've figured out what it means, you're gonna just write a little note to the side. Hopefully you got room. I know you guys are annotating so well, but write a little note to the side about what that line means. Okay, go ahead. Yes. All right, Justin, I'm hoping that you saw these quotes. So I'm just gonna have you annotating in your own binder. I know that's more boring than being here, but just annotate what they mean to you, each of these quotes.
So imitation is suicide. Somebody does that in society, they are trying to act the way that they are.
Okay, so let's just start with the first one. Imitation is suicide. What does he mean by this idea? Imitation is suicide. Sadie?
Well, I was thinking of what the girls did when they were saying like during the math and social suicide, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking like he was saying he would rather die than imitate somebody else.
Yes, okay. What would be so bad about imitating someone else? Why would he rather die?
Because he trusts himself that he doesn't want to conform.
Okay, no conformity. All right, cool. Let's expand on that. Yeah, Megan.
Along with like imitation of suicide, it makes me think like society's type of terms, like how everyone does it basically. I'm not saying no one does it, but basically like there's something in society, like if there's a trend going on, everyone wants to be a part of the trend because it's like a way to fit in.
Mhm.
But Cameron, you clearly don't fit in with society then.
All right, good.
I'm so sorry.
This idea of not fitting into society, that's what he wanted, right? So if Cameron is the weirdo, then it's good that you're the weirdo, according to Emerson.
I like Emerson.
Okay, good. Emerson?
So like, when you change yourself to mimic someone else, or like if it's a group of friends and you change yourself to better fit in with that group of friends, you kind of lose your original self, like you
Yeah.
die.
Yes. You lose the original self. That's it exactly. So it's like I am one thing. My divine sort of self would make decisions based on who I am naturally as a person, my instinct or my reflexes or my intuition, right? But whenever I'm making choices because somebody else made that choice, even if it is very minor, it is like your way of killing off that divine self. And if your divine self is from God, like you are divine, like God is divine, then you're basically killing off God anytime you are imitating someone. He would go that far. Isabella?
I kind of looked at it in like society's point of view, like if you imitate someone, in today's age, like.
Okay, good. So we've got this idea too of like, here's what I think it is kind of in society's example. It's like being fake, I feel like people are gonna call you out for imitating and not being true to yourself. Which, yeah, we really don't like imitation either. That's what I mean when I talk about how like, I feel like this philosophy is just so perfect for America. It's like a real American philosophy because of that. We don't want to be imitators. Yeah, Dave.
What if you do imitate somebody else who's of God?
Yes, okay, so that's where we get into some trouble here. So like, let's say we've got this great example, Abraham Lincoln, you know? Why not imitate Abraham Lincoln? If he was such a great, amazing man, well, not current Abraham Lincoln, but in 1842, why not imitate him? Emerson would say no. Yeah, Zoe.
Well, I think it is that everyone has divinity is what you say.
Yes.
So like how even doing someone who is doing good too, it's still not quite what you would.
It's not your own good. Yes, exactly. Bella?
If you're constantly imitating a good person, even though they have like good philosophies and all that, you're not adding anything new to the discussion.
Yes, not adding or progressing. And that is what you are denying. So, you know, one of the reasons that we get suicide is so much more tragic than just death. It's not like you imitate, you die. It's like you imitate and you have willfully taken your life. One of the reasons that that is so tragic is because basically you're like denying the world your presence through this action that you've done, right? So he's saying that this is like the most selfish thing you can do because you're sort of you're stopping, you're curtailing your ability to add to society and to be this unique divinity.
Okay, so say that I was like imitating Zoe or someone else,
Mhm.
not you.
Okay.
By doing that, you're sort of becoming them and you're sort of using yourself. You're losing your
Yes.
personality.
Yes, and your personality is so valuable in this system. Okay, cool. How about trust thyself? What does he mean by that?
Because you don't really want to trust for yourself.
Yeah, why is
Yeah.
that?
Because like other people try to misguide you and only you know what's good for like your
Okay.
time. your
So,
life.
but if other people are also divine, why can't we trust them? James? Yeah.
Why can't we trust others? It's because in transcendentalism, you are divine. You as an individual is more important than you as a group, as a
Yeah.
nation. Also, negative.
And what was the second part? Bathroom? Yes, you can always just go to the bathroom. You don't have to ask me.
Follow your whim.
Okay, so yeah, individual is better than community. Exactly. Follow your whims to the restroom, right?
More to the
Sorry. Yeah.
It kind of goes with the idea of something a little bit controversial, but modern day Satan
Uh-huh.
talks about you yourself are God and everybody around you are gods, but you need to see yourself as your individual God. You know, we are
Yeah.
not God, I
Yeah.
am God, he is God, she is God.
The transcendentalists do think that, yes. Like, it's like you're not just, I feel like sometimes we kind of water it down and we're like, oh, we're just in contact with God, you know, like through your soul, but it's not that. It's like you are a piece of God, just the same way grass is God and trees are God. You are also a part of this like overarching sort of like God, everything is. I don't know anything about it. I gotta, yeah, Bella.
Well, it's also like everybody has their own uniqueness, right? And
Yes.
So therefore, everybody has their own unique set of needs, wants, feelings. And so something that works for somebody else isn't gonna work necessarily for you.
Yes, exactly. So you start getting into what's called moral relativism a little bit, where it's like it could be right for you and not right for someone else. And as long as it is right for you and you are doing that thing, then it is right. Dane?
Also, if you were to trust somebody, that'd be conforming and lessening your own divinity in their
Yes.
eyes.
So it's another way to not conform as well. If you're going to trust someone else's advice, you're letting that person in too much. Lucy?
So it's kind of coming back to the unique divinities idea, also that phrase.
I know, it is really cool.
Yeah, but like
Our band name.
what what may be best for somebody else might not be best for you. Trust yourself and your body and
Yes.
what it's not.
And I think that's really important too, is it's not just about like, it's about the material qualities of who you are as well. You are supposed to trust, like you said, your body as part of you. Yes, exactly, because that is part of nature, which is God. Isabella?
And with what she said, I also think that's why people like struggle with like self-acceptance or like self-love. and stuff like
Yeah.
that, Because you're trying not to.
Yeah.
You're trying. You're trying not to like compare yourself to others. You're trying to be just yourself.
Yes.
Unique way.
So it's also about like avoiding this idea of comparison too. Yeah, okay, let's comment.
So going back to like the needs, wants, feelings, other people are. People like what might be good for someone else probably isn't as good for you as it is for them. Like if this is a bit extreme, okay, this is really extreme, but if someone's whims tell them to like jump off a cliff, that probably isn't the best thing for you.
But for that person, if their whims,
It might be right.
and Emerson does take it that far. So look like where it says no law is sacred to me, but that of my nature. Let's actually look at that line I talked about right before that. It says, he's talking about impulses, and he says you should follow those impulses, you should follow those whims. And his friend says, but those impulses might be from below, hell, not from above, heaven. So he's like, yeah, but you might be like being tempted. And he says, they do not seem to me to be such, but if I am the devil's child, I will live then from the devil. Like it's like very like extreme here. Where he can do that. So he's like a good person. He doesn't want everybody to go out and like murder everyone, right? But where he can do that is saying, I feel safe telling people that if they're of the devil, then they should, live according to that, because he's like, they're not, they're of God, they're divine. So he's able to kind of like get around that. Okay, tell me about the poor though, because this is kind of sometimes where people get hung up on him. Are they my poor? Let's look at that paragraph. So right before that, he says, then again, do not tell me, as a good man did today, of my obligation to put all poor men in good situations. Are they my poor? Okay, what does he mean by that line? Bradley?
Kind of started this with that, like, being comparable like that is good, but not an obligation.
Okay, good.
And from there, we kind of went to his idea of charity, just being like giving directly to the poor.
Uh-huh.
And we thought about how instead of using your wealth and status to give straight to the poor, that's just gonna kind of happen and go away when you could be using your wealth and status to make the world as a whole better and make it better for everyone.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he would care about making the world better for everyone though. If his whims told him to do that, yes, but I don't think he would see that as an obligation. It'd be okay to him if you just went off into the woods and never saw another person ever again. And he'd be okay with that. But maybe that does already make the world better. I mean, not that it's like the world's without you and that's better, but like maybe that's better because you are being true to yourself now. Zoe?
I think he's more saying that that we need to focus more on ourselves instead of others, because we don't know what's good for them. We need to be their decision with them doing stuff.
Okay, so there is a part here where you follow this through and you're like, well, then a poor person should be doing things according to their whims too, and they need to be self-reliant too, so then maybe charity is a bad thing. County?
I was pretty much.
That's what you were gonna say?
The focus on the individual, like if they are from God, that's where they're supposed to be, and it's their kind of challenge, their kind of way of getting out and getting closer to themselves.
Yeah, maybe so. Sadie?
I feel like his mentality is very American in that sense, like, not in a bad way, but
Like a bootstraps thing?
like, I feel, like a lot of people in America view, their wealth as like theirs and they work for that and they shouldn't have to share it with people.
Yeah. So it's about personal accomplishment a little bit too. Okay, let's actually, Bella?
This is like, not exactly like, I don't feel like it's exactly what he was saying, but I think it's something that he would like definitely kind of agree with.
Yeah.
And like follows along with all of this of like, it's like you shouldn't feel obligated to, like, feeling obligated to be charitable takes the good deed out of charity in a way. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just doing it because people are telling you that it's good, is that really out of your own goodwill?
Yes. So it's a way that you let, charity seems to be an area of weakness where we let people influence us too much. That's what he's saying. So look at the next line. He says, I tell thee, thou foolish philanthropist. What's a philanthropist again?
A giver.
A giver?
Somebody that gives to charities with organizations.
Yes. Yes. So usually something that we say is a good thing in society to be a philanthropist. He says, he calls them foolish. And he says, I grudge the dollar, the dime, the cent I give to such men as do not belong to me and to whom I do not belong. So they don't belong to me in the way that like I've taken sort of personal ownership for them in some way. There is a class of persons to whom by all spiritual affinity I am bought and sold. For them, I will go to prison if need be. But your miscellaneous popular charities, the education at College of Fools, that's like scholarships, the building of meeting houses to the vain end to which many now stand, he's talking about churches, alms to sots, giving money to drunk people, and the thousandfold relief societies. You guys know Relief Society. Though I confess with shame, I sometimes succumb and give the dollar. What does it mean to succumb?
Give in.
Yeah, to like give in, to give up. And so I'll sometimes succumb and I will give $1, but it is a wicked dollar, which by and by I shall have the manhood to withhold. What's he saying right there then about this idea
I'll
of
be strong
obligation?
enough to not give you money.
Exactly. Have you ever been at the grocery store and they say you want to round up and it's like a quarter? It's for some charity. I don't even know which one. And you are like, it's not like you really want to round up your dollar, but it's like you look at the cashier and you're like, she's going to think I am such a jerk if I don't round up the dollar. This is the circumstance you've been in?
Yeah, no, seriously.
It's out of guilt, right?
Saturday, I was getting like,
Same thing?
yeah, no, I was at,
I would
it was
never
exactly,
give
they were
$1.
talking like, hey, you wanna give $1 to support the National Guard? And no, I mean, our nation's army and like our military, I respect them.
Yeah.
They are amazing men and women, but I'm like, I'm not paying $1, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, vets and your families. I'm not paying. They are
See, the
so
fact that you feel like you
heavily
need to
funded.
say, I'm sorry to vets and families, that's what Emerson would be against. He wouldn't be against giving the dollar. If you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, my divine soul says, yes, give the dollar. Although to the military, he'd be pretty suspect. He'd be like, that's society. But like, still, he'd say, if that is your whims, then go for it. But what he has an issue with charities in particular are people saying, do you want to give to charity? Even that much influence is like too much for Emerson. He's just like, I don't want society to have that much control over me.
I
Yeah.
just want to add, that is exactly how I feel about tipping. And here's the thing.
Yes, same thing.
I don't have the money always to tip like a full 20%, but I feel terrible because these people aren't getting paid like a good wage, so they have to like live off of tips.
No, that's
And I
literally
love
a
how Europe
scam.
does
It's
it.
just an excuse that restaurants use to not pay their.
Not pay their
waiters.
And like in Europe, they actually get like offended when you tip them because they get paid living wages.
So you're taking all the
I didn't
burdens of
even know.
society on you. You're not even saying, are they my poor? You're like saying, like, they are my poor. This is my restaurant, and I have chosen not to pay them a living wage. You know, like that kind of responsibility is on your shoulders. And Emerson's like, that gets in the way of your decision making that would be like true to you. Cameron?
I've worked in both businesses,
restaurants, please tip us, retail, we really don't care.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
judging me.
Sense.
You
No,
are, you're
no.
judging, your
No, we
eyes just
really
say,
don't.
you,
Like, whatever.
you're rich enough to afford these jeans and yet.
Yeah, you really think this face is
I
telling me
mean,
to
I work
donate?
I want you out.
Cameron's just had it.
But you get the idea, Sadie?
Never mind.
Okay. Em?
Okay, so, at first when I read this, are they my poor? I was a little bit confused. Then I read back like a couple sentences, and then I read like forward. I just read that entire little section. Basically, what I got from it is, why do I have to give to them if they're not my family? They're not.
Yeah.
I don't know them. Why
Yeah.
Why do I have to?
And yet he's saying, if you want to take ownership, then you can, if you feel like that is right. So I just want to say, like, Emerson is not like anti giving to the poor, he's anti the obligation.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, he's very like, this is stupid, he's very individualistic.
Yes.
He's like, what he's been saying the whole time, obviously self-reliant.
Is that
So,
a
like,
word?
I feel like
Yes.
he views things, like if someone came to him with a problem, he would view it from his standpoint instead of thinking of how they're feeling.
Yes.
And so, but like, it's weird if everyone's thinking of how they're feeling, then no one will ever be able to relate to anybody else. They're all
You think there's a little bit of a hole in his argument here. Like, it doesn't create that kind of community that we look for. Probably. Let's skip to this one then. We must go alone. I have we and alone underlined because it's such a strange thing to say. We must go alone by ourselves.
I don't think.
What does
we
that
got
mean,
one.
Ammon?
So like, with all the stress, like the individualism and stuff, every single person has their own path to take, their own role.
Yeah.
So you have to like not be afraid to do your own thing and make the world better.
Good. Yeah, and I feel like if you do that sort of collectively, if everyone were to commit to this kind of idea, then that motion of going somewhere actually happens. Like, you actually could have a kind of progress as a community. It doesn't mean that you're alone in the woods living by yourself, you know? Alec?
He has a really big individuality complex. And he's like, we all need to go by ourselves and think for ourselves. Because the second we let other people influence how we think is when everything goes.
Yeah.
I don't know how much to do.
No, crap is a good one. Yeah. Is that is that what you're gonna say? Wait, Alec, did you have more? Okay, yes, I think that's absolutely right. So if you go alone together, then that's when society actually does work, is when you're not being influenced by other people too much. Bradley? And then to Megan, sorry.
Oh, thank goodness.
This makes me think like, if Emerson was such an individualist, why did he spend his life going out and giving all these big speeches?
It's ironic, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
his whims, bro.
I think it's part of this.
Well, yeah.
I think he wants to achieve this.
Like
though.
I'm saying, like, part of it is that, creating a better individualistic society will benefit him.
Good. So to go back to this comment up here, wherever you were saying it, right, about making the society better, he is actually thinking about that just as individuals. Megan.
I feel like when he's saying that we must go alone, it almost feels like as if we're always so dependent on someone else. Like right now, I feel like right now we're dependent on society.
Yes.
In this generation, we depend on society. But it's almost as if saying like you have to become independent to understand that like you can't depend on something for the rest of your life. Possibly in that time they all depended on society, like slavery or no slavery. Like, oh, you're depending on what you are. But I feel like also like he going out and doing all these these lectures was always trying to get that to people, saying like you have the option to go by yourself. Like
Yeah.
it's like the girls go in the bathroom system. I don't get it. Why do you have to go to the bathroom all together?
We must go alone.
Why?
You
Like-
go into the bathroom together and then you enter into your
It's not like
separate
we're
stalls.
We're not
I don't
Indiana
know if
Jones.
that's true.
We're
It's
not
a good
Indiana
metaphor.
Jones.
Why do we have a urinal in the middle if no one will use the urinal?
Exactly.
Yes! Literally,
All right.
they should just make.
There is no emergency.
So for next time, you're gonna read a little more Emerson. Now that you like have a really good handle on what he's talking about, I'm gonna give you one that is a little bit more abstract even.
Is it only this page or? is
So
it
it's
more
called
pages?
Nature. It's a few pages.
Okay, so when is
I'm
this
not
due?
doing it.
Okay, wait, but you gotta listen to what the assignment is. It's different. So for this one, I am not gonna check your annotations. I still think it's a good idea when you read it to kind of make notes to yourself, because here's the assignment. Instead of doing annotations, you're gonna write a one-page summary of what he says in this argument. So we worked through all the major parts. I think, well, we didn't get to talk about all of them, but we worked through all the major parts of his essay. That's what you're basically doing. Before you do this assignment, please read the Canvas description of it, because it makes it so much clearer. And I'm looking for something specific. So read that Canvas description, and you will do well. And there's a sample on there too that you can look at.
The essay due next time.
Yeah, one-page summary of this article due next time. Yes, you can turn it in person if you print it. You're doing that at home, and that's your homework for next time. Okay.
I'm saying, I was confusing with that. Oh, I was already confused. So it doesn't really work.
All right, Justin, we are good. Do you have any questions for me?
Do we have to type it up or we write it down?
I want to type.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
Like, could an invisible person have their mind shut
all right, you guys are good to go. If you have any questions, stick around.
What if they didn't know where they were?